I'll roll. Let's roll. Okay. So everybody's got your values in a hierarchy and ranked, right? Okay. So now we're going to get to the fun stuff. Okay. So that's kind of the straightforward stuff. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check the alignment. And there's 3 things to do with this.
I have a question I'll ask you while you write it down, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The values I elicited were how it's been up until now.
Yes.
And it's a train wreck. It's nothing like I want it to.
Well, that's
be,
perfect.
It actually, when she
so
fixed
funny.
it a certain way, it was actually not bad. But what I like is you're looking at your life, so it's like you don't have to be wondering why your life is bad. It's like it's right there in front of you. So it's like, okay.
That's it. That's it. That's kind of what we're looking for. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And train wreck is like the inner critic part.
Yeah.
Because
it's not
really
that bad.
It's not that bad.
I know. I get it.
There's a lot of good that I recognize. So that was, and what I realized, I got to a place of acceptance, and that opens up a place to make it shift.
You guys aren't going to have anything to do tomorrow. Okay. So now, what we're going to do is, rather than me kind of talk about it first, what we'll do is we'll just have Alex come on back up here, and I'll just do it with him, and then we'll have you guys do it, and then that'll take us right into dinner time. So this is exactly where I wanted us to be. Basically, the goal is we want to get all the stuff, like I said, the table set, and then you'll get to sleep on it for a night, and then we'll come back tomorrow, and then we'll do all the stuff we need to do. If something's not totally lined up, then that's where we'll do the stuff. If you've got nothing that needs to be lined up, then we're gonna set something up where you're gonna have like the most major future pace and swish pattern going on. You're gonna feel like you got launched from a fucking rocket. All right, so that's so. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have a lot of stuff wrong or with it or anything like that in order to get good results. We can just take with what you got there. Want to come on up, sir? Please. Give me a hand. All right. You kind of already know the deal with this one, so we'll just kind of roll through this.
It was really nice that there was a complete other list in the other.
See, there you go. There you go.
There were values in there, not over there, and.
That's why I said this is going to be really good. That you picked that one and this one, so it should be really good. Okay, so all I'm going to do is the first way of checking alignment is called the abstraction test, and this is the thing that if I'm working with more business people, this is the total grabber. This is the thing that you say this to most managers or business people, and they're going to go, I want to know how to do this. And basically, the why is, would you be interested? Well, here's the real why, the way I do it. Okay, how many of you have to make important decisions, like pretty much on a daily basis? All right. How many of you have ever felt like you have to make them under not very good conditions, like time constraints and all that? In fact, how many of you actually would say that you really have to make them under stress, and sometimes you're not sure what is really the right decision if you're honest with yourself? Yep. And you can wind it up as tight as you want. I mean, you can just keep hitting it like that. How many of you, and I wouldn't necessarily say this, but do you realize what happens is that if if you don't make timely decisions that are the right decisions, there are consequences to all that. So how many of you would be interested in knowing how you can streamline your decisions so you can take less time to make better decisions? Okay? That's the why. And they're kind of like, well, why wouldn't I want to do that? And it's like, that's why I said that. And this is actually the main one that you do. Okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Alex if he has this. If he has number 1, would he also have number 2? And we're just going to go the whole way down like this and just check this stuff, okay? So if you have openness, would you have honesty?
Of course.
Okay? If you have openness, would you have fun?
Not always.
Okay. Just put that there. If you have openness, would you have your health?
It will
Support it?
Support my health.
Okay, that'll work. If you have a, and this one's not a total, so that's why I didn't, I'll explain it later. If you have openness, would you have trusting yourself?
Sure.
If you have openness, would you have respect? If you have openness, would you have surprise? Yeah,
Lots of times.
especially, yeah, I think so. If you have openness, would you have quality? And if you had openness, would you have innovation?
And it's me, it will.
Now, did you see, even as we were going, there was even more stuff with his body where it was like, yes, yes, yes. So let's go back to this one. If you have openness, would you have fun?
Not always.
Right, right, exactly. So it's not this isn't totally mutually exclusive. In other words, it's not like a really big deal, but it is something, so it is something that could affect things, and I'll show you. This is going to have to do a little bit with some of the shoulds and things that you mentioned. I'll show you how. So the idea is that this is called the abstraction test, and the idea is what you're going for is whatever is the number one value the most abstract of all of these? In other words, is it the most inclusive? So ideally, then, if the person, whatever they pick up here, every one of these should be a subset of that. Okay? What's the value in that? Well, the value in that is that then when a person's making a decision, all they have to ask themselves is, does this support this value? You know, if I'm about to do something and make a decision about who I want to be with, what I want to do, how I want to spend my money, my resources, whatever, you know, it's like, does it support this? Because if we can answer, if we say yes or no, it doesn't matter, but if we say yes, we don't have to even be thinking about these, if you will, because they're all part of this. They're all going to come with this. So this is how you streamline decision making. See, to the extent that, and this was called, in Korzybski's book, Science and Sanity, that he wrote in 1933, he said that one of the reasons why how we create insanity is what's called confusion of logical levels. And that's where we put something that is less, or something that's more specific up high here, and we have abstract stuff down here. Everybody follow that? See, if we had, it's kind of like if we went back to the thing that Jeb and I were talking about, and if the person had like a person's name here, an actual person, you know, the likelihood of all these other things being included inside of that one person is slim and none.
When it's good, it's awesome.
Yeah, right. That's right. That's it. There's a great song. Ben Harper had a song about that. And it's almost like that. When it's good, it's so good, and when it's wrong, it's wrong. Yeah. So that's the first test. Everybody follow that?
I don't think I've ever heard you say that before. That's super cool, because it also explains a lot of the particular kinds of loops that people get caught in.
Sure. See, because what happens is then, think of a manager, and they've got like 4 or 5 things here. They've got 4 or 5 things that are not inside of this. Well, see, that's going to show up in terms of their leadership style, that they're going to be very indecisive, and they're actually going to be accused of being like a procrastinator. It's not that they really are, it's just that every time they go to decide, they actually can feel, even if they don't know in their head, they can feel that, you know, if I go for this and I decide this, then, you know, this stuff isn't going to get handled.
It's also the thinking. It's like priming. They prime themselves for a narrower scope of thinking and all the constellation of things that follow from that. So if the issue is in the abstract,
they're in trouble. And all they're going to do is drill down. Yep. And what was the other thing I was going to say with that? So you've got the whole issue of, because this is what creates parts conflicts. So if you want to think of it this way, these are all, if I would have drawn lines where if he would have said no, that would have been parts conflicts. This one, it's just, you know, it's just a little bit of a tweak. It's not really that big of a deal. It's something that we could mess around with. You know, it's like, you know, to what extent haven't you had as much fun as you could being open as you are?
To what extent?
Could you have more fun, even more fun, being open, being open as you are?
Okay.
You can, can't you? Mm-hmm. So would you not be having fun then?
The answer that's coming up is yes.
Right, exactly. That's the answer that's coming up. How's your body feeling right now?
Surprised.
Oh, well, we like that, don't we? That's because, and that was because you were open.
Of course.
You're surprised because you were open, and now you can start to think about how much more fun you could be, you know, while you're being open, aren't you? Just in a way that you hadn't thought about before that surprised you, right? So when you think about openness, when you have openness, you have fun?
Most of the time.
I know. So now it's moved. It's moved. It's moving.
Yeah,
so I don't want to go too far, but can you see how this is working here? Okay. So this is where I'm showing you people that they want to get into doing all these timeline things and regressions and all. You don't have to use that stuff to work this stuff out. You can just use the languaging stuff. And I'm not going hard on this yet because we still have to do the other tests. So I just couldn't resist, you know. So it's a little wider. It's a little wide, and it surprised you, which was the perfect thing. I love it. And then you have that down there. That's the value of being open, isn't it? Because see, if you're open, right? Because the more open you can be open to surprise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other thing, the other thing that you might not have considered is how much more open you can be having to different forms of fun that you hadn't considered.
Beware.
Beware, that's right. Then others might be surprised too, right?
I think so.
Okay, but we won't go too far with that, but I just wanted to. Okay, so that's the abstraction test. Everybody follow that idea there? Okay. Now the next one is, so I'll just write this up here, just so we have it. The next one is the syntax. And this one's kind of interesting because this one has to do with the bottom up. And it's almost like thinking about this as like a step ladder. And in a way, it's a blueprint for a person's evolution. Okay? So this one, the question is a little bit different. This one was, the first one was, if you have number 1, do you have number 2? If you have 1, do you have number 3? Oh, and by the way, so it doesn't have to be that each one fits inside of the one above. That would be crazy. That would create rigidity. Okay? It's only with the number 1 value, does this fit into this, does this, does this, does this, does this. Everybody get that? Okay. So now the syntax is more like, the question has to do with, if you have lower value, does that support or allow for? Does that support or allow for next value above it? So it's like, you know, as the person's kind of going up through this, does one support or allow, at least allow for the actualization of the one above it? So if I was going to say, so Alex, if you have innovation, does that allow for or support quality? Okay? And if you have quality, does that allow for or support surprise?
With the innovation part in it.
Well, yeah, you would have that. Okay. If you have surprise, does that support respect? Or allow for? Does it allow for respect?
What does allow for mean?
What's it?
Allow for?
No, allow for just means it's not that it's not stopping it. It's just could you still have respect if you have surprise?
Yeah.
That's that idea.
Okay, yeah.
If you have respect, would that allow for or support trusting yourself? If you're trusting yourself, does that support or allow for your health?
Certainly.
Does your health support or allow for having fun?
Yep.
Do you see what's happening to him? He's liking this one. And if you have fun, does that support or allow for being honest?
It sure is.
Yeah. And if you have honesty, does that support or allow for openness? Okay. So that one checks out really good. Okay. That's clean as a whistle on that one. Okay. So now the only other one we'll do here, let me get a slightly, I'll just use the blue.
What if it's not?
If it doesn't?
What if there's conflict?
Well, then with that, then it's literally like, in terms of a ladder, it's like there's a rung that's missing. So they're only going to be able to evolve in terms of their everyday life to whatever is the highest one before there's a big break. they're gonna say, well, I can feel some of this some of the time, but not much, because they can only get up to, you know, wherever, like if there's a couple rungs missing, then for sure they're going to be hanging out down here, and they wish they had this, but they don't really get to have it very often. Get the idea? Okay. So openness. So now we're going to do motivation direction. So, you know, yes, Jason.
You can change them?
Yeah, I'm going to show you in a second. So we're just not there yet, but you're right on the mark. We're right there. So openness. So why is openness important to you?
It's easier hanging out with me if you get what you see. See is what you get.
Okay, I'll just...
what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
No double agenda.
Yep, no double agenda. And why is not having a double agenda and what you see is what you get, why is that important?
To make contact more easier, communication easier.
That's cool.
Yep.
We're good. Honesty, why is honesty important?
First thing that comes up is almost it's the most important thing in life, because things go wrong or go good, but that's how it is. So that's not wrong or right.
Okay, we're good with that one. Why is fun important?
That's why we're living, to make fun, and that's what life is all about. To make the best of it.
That one's gonna be all right. Why is health important?
If I will enjoy life, it's easier to do with a healthy
Do you see
body.
what he does when he goes into the high values every time? I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
When I will enjoy life, it's only fun with if I can walk, if I can think, if I can move, can dance. So.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. If he was older, a lot older, like even older than me, I would maybe check this one a little bit more, because he's got some complex equivalences having to do with being able to move, being able to dance, being able to do that. But if you take it in the total context of him being a young man, you know, I would leave that alone. So I don't need to do a second question on that one. Trusting yourself, why is that important?
I learned that by avoidance.
Now, do you see what happened right here as soon as he did that? Yes.
It was a hard time that I trusted other people, and it went wrong. So
yeah,
I learned better trust myself, and with me being honest and open.
Yep, so that was the solution. And what was just for the record, what was the feeling when you learned that by avoidance? What like when you trusted people and maybe you shouldn't have?
How was the feeling like?
Yeah.
Alone.
Alone. Okay. Okay, and respect. Why is respect important?
It's also the avoidance part of not being good enough to other people, kids at school, bullied at school. Always have to be different to be playing with other kids.
This is really cool. I'm going to show you in a second. It's very, very interesting.
It's not a very cool part, by the way.
What's that?
It's not a very cool
No, I
part
know, but I'm going to show you something that'll, it might make you feel better about this than what you think, okay?
Of course.
And why surprise important?
Why is it surprise important?
Well,
it's about new and different. It's about innovation. It's about not being bored with the same stuff all the way every time again. New things added to my life. Things I never eat before. Something like that.
Okay. Now, one of the things that some of you might be going, well, you know, according to the formal values elicitation thing, you know, you should always ask a second level question. You should if you see physiology that tells you that you should ask a second level question. Okay? But when he talks about all the top values that are totally toward, you guys know even when we did the end state, what did his gestures look like? Okay? So, exact. Okay? So if you're seeing that and the person's doing that, it's like we were talking earlier. If you ask why is this important and why is this important and why is this important and why is this important, and you do that enough times, you will find an away from. But see, it's all by degree. You're going to always find an away from because we have a reptilian brain. I mean, so of course it's always going to come down to that if you take it down far enough. But you know, we also have two other brains lopped on top of that, and we're really talking more to those right now than the other one. Quality. Why is quality important?
I like a good life. To work or to have the best of things, or it's about why do it bad if you can have the good things?
Yeah.
If you can do it work well.
Yeah. And innovation?
That's all about, also about the surprise.
Okay. Yeah, because you even said that here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool.
And it's growth.
And it's growth. Okay. So I wasn't expecting, like, and I told you, I said it to everybody, I wasn't expecting that there would be a whole lot here because most of it's going to be more in the one that you're doing with Elizabeth. But I think this one, especially in terms of raising a son, this is the only stuff that's kind of fuzzy in through here, you know? So the idea of I learned trusting myself by avoidance, and the feeling there is, you know, that you felt alone, and then respect, not being good enough, bully. Obviously, these are not, they're away, so these qualify as away froms, but they're not so significant because if they were, what would have happened is when I would have asked him going on the step ladder going up, he would have said, this doesn't flow into this. This doesn't flow into this. The only one that we're going to have some fun with is chipping away at this. And I'm going to throw some of this in here too, but we're just going to do some language patterns here and basically integrate those things. Okay, that'll be like really pretty straightforward actually.
Because those are parts, like parts conflict.
They're not even really that big, you know. So it's just, you know, if he could have a reference that of trusting himself that is not based on what he learned by avoidance, but instead it would be something more that he would go, okay, what are all the benefits of doing that now? And he has some of this up here, and this is the part I was going to tell you that's interesting. Remember I said in the syntax, it's kind of like the person's development plan, okay? Well, this is the younger you, some of this down here, and this is who you've evolved to become. And you evolved these values up here in order to take care of this stuff down here. See, I told you you'd like that. I told you you would. But can you see that? See, he could have made different, in other words, he could have made different choices in life about what happened here. About what happened here, he could have made different choices. And the choices that he made instead was, if I'm open and honest, and especially what you see is what you get, you know, that kind of thing, that is pretty much the antidote to this stuff down here when you think about it. Everybody follow that? So that's why I said I thought you might like that. I know you didn't like that time in your life, but you know, you could have made a lot of other choices when you were evolving through this, and you could have ended up in some other places that aren't nearly as good, and look at where you've ended up. That's what I meant, feel good about.
Thank you.
Okay? So we're good with that part. So give him a hand. Thanks, Alex. Okay? All right. Yes, Jillian.
So are we moving into the cleanup work right away?
No, we're doing that tomorrow.
Okay.
So all we're going to do right now is, you mean you've already done this?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Then we're definitely not moving into the cleanup work. So, and now this is the the third one is called the motivation direction. Okay. So this is where, so in a more of a business context, I wouldn't do this, what we just did here.
Neither, oh, you would do the abstraction, not the syntax.
I would do the syntax and I would do the abstraction, but I wouldn't do the motivation direction in the group.
Right.
You know, especially if you have a group and you have different status levels in the group, because then it gets really dicey. But that's where you always have the individual coaching package. See? So that's where, you know, because here's the thing that you should know more as, like if you're doing that kind of work in a corporate environment. If a person has significant conflicts, he didn't. But if a person has significant conflicts between their number one value where these things, you know, certain things are not included, the reason why is because there are away froms. That's the reason why. So you already know that even if you haven't filled this out, okay? So then you kind of go, you sit down and you're chatting with the person, you go, look, you know, you can kind of see that maybe your decision making isn't as streamlined as you would like. You know, I mean, how open are you to, you know, us really working this thing out so you can be? And that would be the thing that you would do privately. Everybody get the idea there? And that works out. It's a real easy paradigm. But you can see how these are not like threatening questions, if you know what I mean. It's very benign in a way, but you end up seeing, you know, pretty much, in this case, you can see a person's evolution and kind of what they went through to get to where they are. We got one little twist right here that's kind of interesting. And because he had mentioned some of the shoulds and stuff in the upfront part, I think that's kind of interesting because, see, this is going to be a key thing that we're going to leverage. We're going to leverage that a little bit more. I'm serious about that.
And leverage means
use it to create more change, and use it to create more openness. See, like that. We got a colored. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Yes. Okay.
But
so
it's really nice that you say, because I can already feel when I told you that openness not always leads to fun.
Right.
It's because of other people, where I have to be open to, and I think the thing that I say or have to decide or can be good for me or for, but not always for everybody.
Right. And see, the reason why not always for everybody has a little bit of a thing to it, and this is what I was checking when you were, I just made a note when we were just doing the original stuff, and you had, when we did surprise, you said the other, it's surprise because the other, it would be the other way that people would expect. Okay? So there's a little bit of the other people in there, which is this stuff. And that's why we are going to. Yeah, I am too. It's going to be good. Yeah, and that's really all that's happening there. So you can see how all these things interlock together. And that's how a values hierarchy should work. You should see, even if things, you know, aren't quite right, it should be very obvious when you look at how everything interlocks. And it's actually very intricate when you think about it, like how a nervous system or a brain figures out this kind of alignment basically unconsciously. And how, I mean, this is literally how the brain is organizing itself around how to live life. You know, so when you think of it that way, it's kind of a major feat. You know what I mean? It's like, wow.
This is huge.
You know, like to think about that, you know, that it's figured out all these things and this connects with this and this connects with this, but not this over here and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So what we'll do, so we're going to run a little bit late tonight, but I think we'll still be okay. Let's do it this way. I think you guys will be cool with this. It's 6:16 right now. So would it be okay if we kind of do a mix and match here kind of thing? So let's say, well, let me give you this proposal and then I'll see whether I get shot down or not, all right? How's that for a nice positive setup for the trainer? Okay? No, but I'm willing to take it on the chin if I have to. So let's say, how would you feel if we just go, be back here at 7, and you can eat. You could eat now if you want. You can eat later if you want. You could do one person and then eat. You could do two people and then eat. You could eat and then do both people. You could even eat at the same time. That's exactly. You could actually eat. You could actually eat while you're doing it if you feel comfortable with that. And in the interest of not running like super late tonight, then we'll kind of get that handled. And if there's a little bit of time after 7, that's okay. But does that work for everybody?
Yeah, that's entrainment time.
Yep. Then we'll do entrainment at 7. And this will be the last one. Because as I told some of you when we were getting started today, I've tried doing the entrainment on the last night and it's just not good. It kind of, from a training point of view, the energy can get a little bit squirrely because people are kind of now starting to think about leaving, and there's stuff like that. And then with the lights down low and everybody's spaced out, and then I got to figure out a way to do a closing after that. It's just. So I've learned. So we'll do an entrainment tonight, and then tomorrow we'll have a little celebration for those of you that are still around. We'll figure something out, what we can do as a group, and hang out and create some disturbances here at the hotel, and let them know that we, so that we actually get to be those people. Sometimes it's really fun to be those people.
You already are.
You think so? Huh?